Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.
From St. Louis Public Radio. This is St. Louis on the Air.
If you see me, I love pictures. I love talking to you. Please, I would be mad if you don't approach me. I love watching reality shows. It's kind of, I feel like I'm like Jane Goodall studying humans, like in the woods. The hard thing is just saying, having self-respect and having boundaries. And that's something that I just wished for myself so much that I think I really wanted these girls to get it at a younger age than I'm finally getting it.
I'm Sarah Fensky. When the pandemic struck New York City, comedian Nikki Glaser did the same thing as a lot of millennials. She moved back in with her parents. In her case, that was in Des Peres. But while that wasn't so surprising, perhaps this is. She's still here. Now, these days, she no longer lives in her parents' house, but she joins us today to discuss her wild and crazy St. Louis life, her hit HBO Max show, her upcoming St. Louis stand-up shows, and much more. So, Nikki Glaser, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back. I'm in a much different place, both literally and figuratively, than I was last time we talked.
That's right. You have left your parents' house.
I have. I eventually moved out, not because I even wanted to. It just became... It became a hard question to answer when I got asked, over and over, like, why are you living with your parents? You're 37, you're successful. What's going on? And so I got rid of that therapist, and I was like, I don't want to dig into that. I just really liked living with them, but it just was apparent to me, like, I needed to move out, and Baby Bird needed to fly again, because I've lived with them off and on throughout my career, going back home, and I just really like them, and I feel a lot of love there, and just feel safe there. And I'm single, and I worked too hard in my life to really prepare myself for a situation where work stops and you have to slow down and be by yourself. And it finally, in December, I think I was like, okay, it's been 10 months of living with my parents in Des Peres, in my childhood bedroom. I should probably find a way to get out and go somewhere else, and but I didn't want to live alone because I don't do stand-up every night anymore. And so that always used to be distracting for me. If I lived alone, I was never really home. I was just out working, and then I would get home and I would go to sleep. And suddenly when I stopped doing stand-up every night, I was just really bored and lonely, and just felt like falling back into depression. And that's why I moved home. I felt the pandemic happening. I was like, Oh no, my life is shutting down. All the things that I used to distract myself from looking inward and being alone are going away. I need to be around people. So I didn't have any friends here to move in with, or roommates that I felt comfortable with, because all my friends are married or voted for Trump, and I don't really talk to them anymore. And so that's not a joke. So I called up my friend who lives in New York, who's my opener on the road, and he is my best friend. He's also single, 41-year-old man living in New York. We used to hang out every day when I lived there. Yeah. And I was like, will you move to St. Louis and get a place with me? And we'll get a 3-bedroom place. We'll turn one of the bedrooms into a podcasting studio. And I had a deal with iHeartRadio to start a podcast in 2021. And so I got him a co-hosting job on it, and I was like, moved to St. Louis for this job, and now I live with him.
And you persuaded him to move to St. Louis. Was that a hard sell?
It really, I just go, what do you have going on there? You're not doing anything.
Is that the argument we need to use to get people to move here?
You just present to them that their life could be better somewhere else, and that, you just shame them about the life they're living now, and present to them, you offer them a job, essentially. And that's really what it was about, I think.
I mean, that'll do it. Yeah. So you offer him the job. He's now the co-host of your podcast.
Yeah, we do it every day, Monday through Thursday from, we wake up, we have breakfast, I walk the dog, and then we just go into a studio together and sit on these comfortable chairs and just chat. And I kind of wanted it to be like a morning radio show. I grew up in comedy, going to different markets and going into morning radio shows. I love morning radio. I love feeling like you have friends to tune into and drop in on every day. So I wanted to create that in a podcast space. So, and I honestly, the offer from iHeartRadio was like, we just want one podcast a week from you. And I was like, I want to do it 4 days a week for the same amount of money. And
Wow.
They wanted just an hour podcast once a week. And I do like an hour and a half podcast 4 times a week because I mean, as you can tell, I love talking. And
You do love talking.
And I don't go on stage anymore every night. So it's just an outlet for me that I used to take out on stage every
You have
night.
all these thoughts.
Yeah, I have a lot to work through.
And so Andrew is here.
Yes.
You guys are having this podcast, and it sounds like you're having such a blast on this podcast. But I have to ask, is Andrew liking St. Louis?
He loves it. It's so nice to like see him fall in love with it in a way that he's worried that I'm going to get a job in LA or a boyfriend or some reason that I would move to LA and have to leave him here. And I'm like, no, I'm not going anywhere, because what I learned is through the pandemic is that when those towns need me, New York or LA, I can go, they'll fly me there. If the job is worth doing, I'm in a good part. Not everyone can say that. I'm in a really cushy position in my career that if people want me to do a show there, they'll pay for me to stay, put me up and fly me out there. Whereas when I couldn't have done this when I was first coming up, because you've got to get on stage every single night and you got to get those reps in. And now I'm in a more comfortable position where I'm very confident in, you know, who I am on stage. I've done the 10,000 hours, I think, at this point. So I can take a break and I can step away and not have to live there. And so now I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to live here in St. Louis. I don't crave being, you know, living in that Hollywood lifestyle and having famous friends and all of the things that kind of you feel pressured to do, going out every night. It's a lot of pressure and a lot of like living on Instagram. When you're in LA or New York, for me, it's just keeping up with everyone else and the fast pace. And here I just feel like, oh, I can, you know, eat dinner and then just mosey over to the couch and watch a show and then go to bed. It's not like, who are you going to go out with tonight? Where are you going to go up? What sets are you going to get? Running around. I mean, it's just, it timed out perfectly because I was really tired.
You were ready for this change.
Yeah, I really was.
I'm glad the pandemic gave you this.
This is great.
Yeah, it worked out great for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, all joking aside, though, I mean, this does sound like such a great life change. I have to ask, though, I mean, you've got to be the most famous face in St. Louis right now. Like, can you go to Schnucks without just getting mobbed by men and by people who want they want a selfie?
You know, the mask thing, I think I will say that's why it doesn't happen, but it's really because, like, people in St. Louis don't care as much as you would think. Like, I grew up loving celebrities. Like, I always kind of think, wow, if I saw Nikki Glaser, like, from TV at Schnucks, I would freak out. But people don't care as much as I cared. As I would always, like, you know, really looked up to celebrities in a sickening way, like in a, you know, projected a lot of perfection onto them. And it's almost like it's nice that people don't care. But there are times where I'm like, wait, I just told you I'm like the host of FBoy Island on HBO Max, which you've heard. You said all your friends watch it. Like, that's not interesting to you that you just happen to pick up me in an Uber? Like, they're just like, oh, you host that? And I'm like, yeah, why isn't that getting more of a response? Not that I think I deserve it, but just
But
like,
no, you do deserve it.
It just, I mean, I didn't, you know, it's not like I did any good service for the world that I need to be like praised for it, but I get surprised at how, like, just like, oh, you know, like pedestrian, the responses I get are from St. Louisans. But I really do love, I'm only reaching this point in my career where I would be recognizable since the pandemic, really. Like, a lot of the things that I shot that aired on TV aired during 2020.
Your special, that
my
went
special,
crazy.
that was
now
like
FBoy Island.
FBoy Island I filmed, you know, last year, and that came out this summer. So I'm kind of becoming a little bit, as gross as it sounds, more famous as I live here. And I'm seeing, like, last night I went out for the first time socially to the Whiskey Ring on Cherokee and just met some friends outside on the patio. And it was my first time, honestly, going out socially in St. Louis. Like, I don't do anything. It's hard when you move here and you don't really have a group of friends. And I'm trying, but and last night I got recognized a couple times, and it felt nice. And then I got home and people were like, "Was that you?" Like, DMing me, and I go, "Please say hi. I was with people that I like to feel cool around." Like, being recognized. I always tell people, and this just doesn't go for me. If you ever see a celebrity, bother them just very quickly. Like, just go, huge fan. And if they want to talk to you, they'll be like, oh my gosh, thank you. And you'll know. You don't need to like ask them for a picture, but if you see me, I love pictures. I love talking to you. Please, I will be mad if you don't approach me because...
Wow, what an invitation to public radio listeners. I feel like that Venn diagram of public radio listeners who love Nikki Glaser, they're going to be like huge fan in you all over the place.
I get so sad when I find out people saw me and just were too scared or like socially awkward because I'm socially awkward too, but I implore you to like... especially if you like me, we would probably be friends. Like, I'm not going to treat you any differently than I would, like, someone I went to high school with. Like, oh my God, especially if you listen to my podcast, because then you really know me, and I'll probably hug you and make you uncomfortable.
Well, this is the best invitation we've ever been able to give you, people listening to this show. I'm very excited Nikki has made this offer. I'm going to now bother you every time I see you. Get ready for it.
Please go. Nikki, can you guys believe this is Nikki Glaser? I mean, it happens a little here and there, and that was always my dream, like going to Kirkwood High School. I was kind of a dork. I always wanted to be popular. I always was like, man, it would be amazing someday to like have everyone in the room be talking about me. That is not my goal anymore. I want to make that clear. Like, that was a sick goal of just wanting love from strangers, which obviously led me to becoming a comedian. Every comedian's deeply insecure and didn't get enough love, even though I came from a loving family. It just still wasn't enough. But now I like, if I still wanted that, I would live in LA or New York. Like, I appreciate when I meet people who appreciate what I do, and I like socializing and talking, as you can tell. But it's, that dream has come true of being recognizable, and it's not, I don't like I like still looking like crap when I walk around town and being, sometimes I get recognized and I look so different than I do on TV. I'll be wearing no makeup, my hair's a mess, and people will go, are you Nikki Glaser? And I'm like, how dare you think I'm Nikki Glaser? Because I look so bad that I'm like, you think this is what I look like? It is, but you're not supposed to know that. So, I'm actually flattered when people don't recognize me because, it is
a great compliment. That's a great way of saying you look wonderful on TV.
Yes.
Well, we're talking here to Nikki Glaser. And Nikki, I cannot let this conversation get so far afield that I forget to talk to you about FBoy Island.
Yes,
because doing my research, as I have to do in the public radio profession, I have been watching FBoy Island. And you are so funny in the show. I would say to people who haven't seen this is like The Bachelor, except Nikki brings this smart, ironic twist to it that is just so fun to watch. Oh my
gosh. Thank you so much for saying that. The show I was attracted to initially because I love shows, I love reality programming, and I know that a lot of people say, oh, it's fake. And I always say to those people, well, what do you watch? And they're like, oh, scripted entertainment, like Breaking Bad and The Wire, like I'm into really good. It's like, well, those are scripts written by white men in Burbank for actors who aren't those people. That's the fakest thing I've ever heard. Reality programming, while the scenarios are fake, the people are real, and I love watching reality shows. It's kind of, I feel like I'm like Jane Goodall studying humans, like in the woods, and that's how I kind of went into this. Is I was a fan of the genre, and especially it was called FBoy Island. I walked into a show that title grabbed me right away because I go, that has a sense of humor about itself. Mm-hmm. So not only is it a new show that I'm going to be brought in as a producer on so that I can kind of...
You can shape it.
Shape it and give it a voice, but I really wanted to be the voice of the person on the couch watching these shows going, this is ridiculous. What are they doing? And calling out the just absurdity of it all but actually also being very invested the whole time. So I rode that line of like actually really caring about the relationships that were happening on the show, because although they happen in a pressure cooker on this island and they're not sustainable, and the emotions are real, it's a prison experiment, for the conditions are perfect to make people fall desperately in love, and no one's that good of actors. These people are really, and I got swept up in it. Like, even I was scared that I was maybe going to have to fake some of that enthusiasm for it, and boy, did I not. I had to pull back, actually.
Well, and this is part of what I love about this, is on this show, there is the Jane Goodall aspect, and I'm going to play a clip in just a moment so people can see what I mean. But there's also, you really seem like you're a big sister to these girls, and you are trying to help them, and you're trying to help the boys, and that's the clip I'll get to in a minute. But with these women, I get the sense you're earnestly rooting for them to self-actualize and to understand their own worth.
Yeah, and I mean, I really think it's me projecting because I learned a lot from these girls, actually. I wanted them to be the woman that I want to be in relationships, which is so much easier to tell people and guide them to say, I'm great at giving advice, bad at following it, but I wanted them to stand up to these guys that treated them wrong and to not be scared to confront things that upset them, because in the past in relationships for myself, I've been a complete pushover and just wanted so desperately to have a boyfriend or to be loved that I put up with so much because I was scared that if I said, I don't like when you do this thing, they'd go, okay, well, that's what I do, and bye. And then I go, actually, it's fine. You can keep doing it. And I was also scared of, especially these guys are pretty immature and they're used to getting really hot girls or whatever they want, and they say stupid things. So there was a part of me that was scared that if these guys got rejected or criticized in any way, they would lash out in an ugly way at these girls, which is another one of my fears that my therapist says, you're scared that if you tell a guy you don't want to like kiss him on a first date, he's going to say you're ugly. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, this sounds like the fear of a 15-year-old. And I'm like, yeah, because I think that's where I got stunted in terms of like dating and fears. Like I seriously always fear that. Even on the show, I was scared to like roast these guys because I was scared they were going to be like, you're old. Like, what are you doing here? And it's just I have a lot of issues when it comes to dating, and I'm fascinated by what women put up with, how women use sexuality to get a guy to like them when really that ends up being the thing that makes the guy not like them, even though it's just counterintuitive because it seems like that's all the guy wants, and then you give it to them and then they don't want you anymore, which has happened to me a million times until I figured out like, oh, I should probably stop doing that. But the hard thing is just saying, having self-respect and having boundaries, and that's something that I just wished for myself so much that I think I really wanted these girls to get it at a younger age than I'm finally getting it. And yeah, so I actually learned a lot about myself on the show and was able, through watching these women, get to tell these men, like, I'm eliminating you this week because, I don't know, you're not spending any time getting to know me. You only talk about yourself. Like, saying that kind of stuff to guys instead of just being like, I just am not looking for a relationship, lying, making a guy accountable. And dealing
it's so
with,
empowering.
It's so scary, but when I watched these girls do it, I was able to really start standing up for myself in relationships. I mean, there were texts I sent to men while I was doing the show that I wouldn't have sent had I not watched CJ, Sarah, and Nakia, give these guys speak their truth to these guys instead of just either ghosting them or trying to cater to their egos and vice versa. I mean, the guys gave it back to the girls too.
Well, so I am so glad to hear that this has led to breakthroughs for you. I want to also talk a little bit about the counseling you do to the men.
Oh, that was my most
this is amazing.
Moment.
So these are these F-boys. You sent them to quote-unquote Limbro.
Yeah.
This is where they tried to learn to become better men. I'm going to play just a clip from your F-boys to F-men support group.
Thanks.
Right here is the conch of confidentiality. If you are not holding the conch, please do not speak. Otherwise, she will be deemed a conch block.
Oh my God. Can I take this off?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, me too.
Feel free to take your shirts off at any time, you guys. I just want you to be comfortable and for me to be comfortable. Anthony, would you like to share? Tell us about your rock bottom. What were those withdrawals like?
Just not having sex and not being able to have sex when you want to. It was just stressful. I had to have sex,
You feeling this? Have you been through those same withdrawals?
Yeah, I'm like crying because his words are so impactful.
I'd like us all to join hands.
These days I just can't think straight. I got too many angles running around my brain.
Grant me the humility.
Grant me the humility.
To listen to the women I'm not trying to bang.
To listen to the women I'm not trying to bang.
The courage to return a text to the ones I have.
The courage to return a text to the ones I have.
And the wisdom to wear a condom.
And the wisdom to wear a condom.
Amen.
Amen.
And that, of course, is from the HBO Max show FBoy Island. We have here the host and executive producer here with us today, Nikki Glaser. I should mention she's doing stand-up in St. Louis this weekend. We have all those details on our website if you want to catch her live. That's stlonair.show. But you're trying to help these boys become men. Were you able to succeed in that?
I honestly was. Like those kind of moments that we had on the show were places where I could really play and be this more comedic, kind of sketchy character. Like those moments we had there were sketches that were pre-produced to be like, oh, let's just do this fake therapy. But I swear to you, like I'm always really good about getting people to talk about things they're not used to. Like I get Uber drivers to tell me really personal things, and they don't not because I'm trying to. I share stuff, so I think people feel comfortable sharing things with me. But there were moments in those sessions where the guys admitted to having sex addiction without really knowing that they were admitting it.
And they didn't have the words, but they were describing.
Yes, they were describing these, like, being addicted to the validation they got from sex, being addicted to just the feeling they got from sex, admitting that they now mistreat women and are scared of intimacy and ghost women and sleep with them without following up because they've been hurt by a woman in the past or because their mother abandoned them. Like, we were getting into those kinds of things pretty quickly, and the producers kept having to steer me back to, like, this is comedy. I'm like, no, we're getting somewhere. And so, I mean, I've remained friends with a lot of these guys. I saw 2 of them on the road this past weekend, and they just, it's just so nice as a host to be friends with them and for them to have this trust in me. And that's what I really wanted, was, because I do believe that F-boys can be redeemed. I think that what it takes is a woman with self-esteem. They need to just, when they are faced with a woman who will not put up with their antics and doesn't let them get away with that stuff and holds them accountable, and they want to be with that woman, they will change. But it is a matter of women. It's not all on us, because obviously they have to do the work as well.
And you can't force that if they're not in that place
No.
and you're not the right woman. I feel
There's
like so many women make that mistake.
That's the difference. I do believe that forcing and saying, well, I need you to do this, and if you don't do, saying it like that is not going to get the results you want, as opposed to, I can't have sex with you because I get really attached with sex because, my hormones are different than yours, and I've found in the past that sex makes me get a little addicted to someone. So I need to be very careful with that, and I just know myself, so I can't sleep with you until I have a commitment from you and know that this is long term. Now, that's a way of presenting the same thing of, like, I want you to be my boyfriend, shape up and, fly right, or you're not going to get me, but in a way that's, like, about what you know about yourself and respecting yourself. And I just found that so much of the time with men, and especially these F-boys, I mean, I was even trying to get these F-boys to like me in ways that was, like, making me sick of, like, why do I care what Garrett thinks about me? But it really is about having self-esteem in the end. And I'm still working on it, and we'll see in season 2 if we've made any progress.
Well, we are excited about season 2. And Nikki Glaser, we are so excited that you were here with us today. It was just great to talk to you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It was so fun.
This episode was produced by Emily Woodbury with audio engineering by Aaron Dorr. It was mixed and edited by Jane Mather-Glass. Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer. St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here. If you learned something new from today's episode, consider leaving us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the easiest way to help people discover our show. We appreciate it. Thank you. St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri, St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.